Mommy. I heard my daughter's voice, sounding surprised and worried. I tried hard to stay awake, but I couldn't, and I fell unconscious right in front of her. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. My daughter was holding my hand tightly, not wanting to leave me alone. I felt bad for scaring her. I was about to say sorry when she spoke first. Mommy, the baby in your tummy says they don't want Daddy to erase them. Her words surprised me. My name is Linda Williams. I'm 27 years old, and I take care of our home. I live with my husband, Mark, who is 2 years older than me, and our daughter, Sarah, who is 4 years old. Before, I used to work as a sports trainer, but I had to stop because I got pregnant. It made me sad to leave my job, but I wasn't feeling well often after I found out about the pregnancy, so I didn't have a choice. It was tough for me to quit, but there were some good things too. Before that, Mark didn't really help out much with chores or taking care of Sarah, but he started doing more to help me out. Even though I was worried about my health, I was happy to see Mark changing. I thought things would be okay. Mommy, wake up. It's morning. I woke up to Sarah's voice, and it was already 7 a.m. Sarah's daycare bus comes at 7:30 a.m., so I got up quickly. Oh no, Sarah, we have to get ready fast. What happened? We slept too late. If we don't hurry, we'll miss the bus. While brushing my teeth, I worried that Sarah might get confused. When I left the room, I realized I hadn't seen Mark anywhere. He usually leaves by 7:15 a.m., so he should still be at home. Maybe he's downstairs having breakfast. I felt a bit annoyed that he didn't check on us, but I headed for the stairs. Then it happened. I slipped, and for a moment, I felt like I was flying through the air. I'm going to fall. I reached out instinctively and grabbed onto the handrail, stopping myself from tumbling down the stairs. Phew, that was close. I immediately put my hand on my stomach, but I didn't hit it, and it didn't hurt. Just as I let out a sigh of relief, Sarah, looking worried, rushed over. Mommy, are you okay? I'm fine, honey. Sorry for scaring you. I reassured Sarah as I hugged her tightly. Then Mark, hearing the noise, hurried over from downstairs. What happened? I slipped and almost fell down the stairs. Whoa, be careful. I'm sorry, but it felt like the floor was really slippery and, wait a minute. I noticed that the floor looked cleaner than usual. I hadn't noticed before, but the wooden floor in the hallway was shining, like someone had polished it. Mark then explained in a flustered tone. All right, I waxed the floor last night. Waxed? Why did you suddenly decide to do that? I noticed it while cleaning the floor, but I guess I got a little too excited. I'm sorry, Mark explained. Oh, I see. I was surprised that he had waxed the floor, something he had never done before. But lately, he had been helping out a lot more with chores around the house. So maybe he was starting to notice the little things. Once men start paying attention to details, they just can't stop, can they? Even though it seemed a bit strange, I decided not to worry about it. A few days later, on a Sunday, Mark had to work, so I took Sarah to the park by ourselves. Before, I used to run around and play with Sarah, but I couldn't do that now. I watched Sarah happily playing on the swing, with a water bottle Mark had prepared for me in my hand. Who would have thought that Mark would start preparing things like a water bottle for me? When Sarah was born, Mark wasn't interested in anything at home. It still makes me emotional when I think about it. He didn't seem interested in Sarah either, so whenever I talked to him about it, he got upset, and he started coming home from work later and later. The fact that he now prepares a water bottle for me is still surprising, but it makes me really happy. Thinking about this and feeling a bit thirsty, I decided to take a sip of the tea Mark had made for me. Then, Mommy, Sarah called out suddenly. After drinking about a quarter of the bottle, I suddenly felt dizzy and started to feel unsteady on my feet. I held onto the swing's fence for support, but even then, I could feel myself getting weaker, and it was hard to stay standing. Mommy, what's happening? Help, Mommy! I heard Sarah's voice, sounding surprised and worried. I tried my best to stay conscious, knowing that if I fainted, Sarah would be left alone. But despite my efforts, I collapsed while shielding my stomach. When I woke up, the first thing I saw was the bright white ceiling above me. I felt disoriented for a moment, but then I noticed the smell of disinfectant and saw a nurse approaching, asking, "Are you okay?" It dawned on me that I was in a hospital, and then I thought of Sarah. "Excuse me, do you know where my daughter is?" She was with me when I passed out. I asked the nurse as I sat up. She nodded understandingly and reassured me with a smile. "She came to the hospital with you in an ambulance. She should be with your husband now." My husband. He left work early to come here. He arrived a little while ago. He's such a caring husband, the nurse informed me before leaving the room to call them. Feeling relieved that Sarah wasn't alone, my head started spinning again, and I collapsed back onto the bed. Why did I faint when there were no issues during my previous prenatal checkups? Was it because I moved around too much, or did I eat something bad? As these thoughts raced through my mind, I suddenly remembered the tea from the water bottle that I had drunk just before I fainted. Come to think of it, that tea, just as I pondered this, the door opened and the nurse, a doctor, Mark, and Sarah entered. "Mommy," Sarah exclaimed with relief. "Sarah, I'm so glad you're here. I'm sorry for leaving you alone," I said, relieved to see her. "I'm okay. But what about Mommy? Are you okay, Mommy?" Sarah asked, sounding worried. "Yeah, I'm feeling better now," I reassured her, patting her head as she rushed over to me. The doctor smiled beside me. In the end, the doctor decided that I needed to stay in the hospital for 2 or 3 days. After they finished examining me, both the doctor and the nurse left the room. Mark said, "I'll go get a drink," and he left too. In the hospital room, it was just me and Sarah. Then Sarah seemed a bit uneasy, like she wanted to say something. "What's on your mind, Sarah?" I asked. "Mommy, can you promise not to tell Daddy a secret?" Sure, but why?" I was curious, but I agreed, and Sarah leaned in closer to me with a serious expression. "The baby says they don't want Daddy to make them disappear." Huh? I was momentarily stunned, unable to comprehend what Sarah was trying to say. Sarah then looked a bit frustrated and spoke louder. "The baby says Daddy's being mean, and the tea in the water bottle." Her words caught me off guard. I had also noticed an odd bitterness in the tea from the water bottle. When I drank it, I thought maybe Mark had bought a different kind of tea, so I didn't think much of it at the time. But now, thinking back, I felt a wave of dizziness right after drinking that tea. A small part of me wondered if there was a connection to my fainting spell. "But what does it mean?" the baby is saying. "Hey, Sarah. Sorry I took so long. The cafeteria was busy." Mark interrupted as he walked back into the room. I was so surprised by his sudden appearance that I couldn't bring myself to ask Sarah further about what she meant. Sarah seemed uncomfortable and buried her face in the bed. "Is everything okay?" Mark asked, noticing the tension in the room. "Nah, it's nothing," I replied, trying to brush off the tension. "Well, whatever. I'm heading home for today. I have work tomorrow. Just rest up, okay?" Mark said as he took Sarah's hand and left. Sarah hesitated for a moment before following him. "Let's go home with Daddy today. Mommy is staying at the hospital," Sarah said as they left. "Oh, okay," I replied, feeling uneasy as they walked out. I couldn't shake off the worry about Sarah, but there wasn't much I could do at the moment. I just had to focus on getting discharged as soon as possible and settled back into bed. But Sarah's unsettling words lingered in my mind, making it hard to sleep. 3 days later, I was discharged from the hospital while my husband was at work, so my friend Kimberly came to pick me up. Kimberly was a friend from the gym where I used to work, and she had been looking after me since I had to quit due to my health condition. "I was shocked to hear you fainted, but you seem to be doing much better than I thought. I've been sleeping so well in the hospital that I feel much better. I'm glad. I was worried because you're pregnant," Kimberly said as we talked in the car on our way home. As we chatted, I couldn't shake off a feeling of unease. I had been feeling tired and foggy-headed lately, but surprisingly, I started feeling better after just a few days in the hospital. It struck me that the only significant change during that time was that I had been taking a break from household chores and childcare, and I had been eating balanced meals in the hospital. And then it hit me. So that means I didn't eat Mark's cooking yesterday. I recalled several odd occurrences since Mark had taken over the housework. Besides almost slipping on the freshly waxed floor, there were other incidents that bothered me. Things would be placed in unusual spots, causing me to trip. Once I was told the shower was ready, that there was no hot water, only cold water. It happened often, especially during winter, which made me rush to the hospital out of concern for the baby. Thankfully, everything was fine, but it was incredibly stressful. I had initially dismissed these incidents as simple mistakes caused by Mark's lack of experience with housework. But upon reflecting on them now, each one seemed like it could have serious consequences if one wrong step was taken. "Linda, we're here." Kimberly's voice interrupted my thoughts. "Oh, yeah." I realized we had arrived at the house. Seeing my quiet demeanor, Kimberly looked at me with concern. "If you're not feeling well, you should let me know, okay?" "Yeah, I will. Thanks. You should rest for today at least. I'll go pick up Sarah, okay?" "Thank you, I really appreciate it," I said as we got out of the car together. I made a mental note to have a proper conversation with Sarah once she returned in the evening. When Sarah came home with Kimberly, she even brought some deli food for dinner and told me to call her if anything happened before leaving. She was like a superhero, and I couldn't help but feel grateful. As we ate dinner with the deli food Kimberly had brought, I felt surprisingly well, so I decided to talk to Sarah again. "Can we discuss what happened the other day?" I asked, and Sarah nodded seriously. "Sure, Mommy." "What do you want to talk about?" she asked. "Do you think you could talk to the baby in my belly, Sarah?" Yes, Sarah nodded firmly. Her sincerity was evident, and I couldn't help but believe her. "Then can you tell me again what the baby is saying?" I asked. "Well, the baby is scared of Daddy," Sarah began, her voice serious. "Daddy is trying to hurt us on purpose and separate Mommy and the baby, so the baby is holding onto Mommy as tightly as possible." I was speechless at Sarah's words. Though her explanation was simple, it connected all the strange occurrences, and I couldn't shake the feeling that they were deliberate attempts to harm the baby. The realization sent shivers down my spine. "Mommy, what's wrong? Are you in pain?" Sarah asked, tears welling up in her eyes, clearly worried about me. "Sarah, I'm sorry. I'm okay." I reassured her, hugging her tightly as I wiped away her tears. In that moment, I made a silent vow to myself. I needed concrete evidence or no one would believe what was happening. The next day, after watching my husband leave for work, I retrieved a baby monitor from the back of the closet. It was something we used when Sarah was a baby. If this revealed what I feared, it would be terrifying. But if it showed nothing, that would be a relief too. With a glimmer of hope, I hid the camera behind a houseplant. A few days later, I mustered the courage to check the footage. What I saw was beyond anything I could have imagined. It shattered the small hope I held onto. And in that moment, I made a decision. I wouldn't let this go unpunished. A week or so passed since I saw the footage. Earlier in the day, I had left Sarah at my parents' house. Now, I had tidied up the entire house and prepared a perfect dinner before Mark came home. Mark finally arrived and was surprised to see the elaborate meal set on the table. "What's going on?" "I could have made dinner." "I can't let you do anything dangerous anymore," I said firmly. "Huh? What do you mean?" Mark asked, a hint of caution in his eyes. "I mean exactly what I said. What have you been feeding your pregnant wife all this time? I don't understand it at all." "My health has improved significantly since I stopped eating your cooking for the past week," I explained, my tone serious. Mark seemed slightly shaken by my words. As I continued to speak, I noticed his expression shifting. "I've been pretending to eat your cooking and throwing it away," I confessed. Mark's eyes widened in surprise. Meanwhile, as I investigated around the house, I noticed that the non-slip pad under the rug was missing, and the anti-tip device on the bookshelf next to the bed had been removed. It sent shivers down my spine. These actions weren't just aimed at our baby, they implied that I was also a target. When I glanced at Mark, I noticed his mouth twitching as he attempted to force a smile. Suddenly, I recalled instances when body wash had spilled on the bathroom floor after a shower and items had fallen from shelves. If I had slipped and hit my stomach during any of those incidents, it could have been disastrous. Those were just coincidences, right? Maybe I just made a little mistake, I mused aloud. I thought so too, until I saw this. I thrust my phone in front of his face and played the footage recorded on the baby monitor. In the video, Mark was clearly heard speaking on the phone. I understand, but it's not going as planned. It's surprisingly difficult to make someone disappear in an accident. Well, two people. It would be best if the baby in the belly could disappear too. Mark's voice echoed from the video. The words sent chills down my spine, no matter how many times I heard them. As I watched Mark, I noticed him trembling slightly and remaining silent. Despite my wariness, I continued to speak. The person on the phone is a woman, isn't it? You're discussing doing terrible things once I'm gone, things too disgusting to even mention. How dare you spy on me like this? I'll sue you. Do you even understand what you've done? Just shut up. Just shut up. Mark exploded, his face turning bright red as he lost control and lashed out at me. Instinctively, I hunched over to protect my stomach. Suddenly, there was a loud bang, and I heard Mark scream, "Landa, are you okay?" "Kimberly, thank you," I said with relief as I looked over to find Kimberly, who had easily subdued Mark and was now laughing. In fact, she's a strong woman who has won the National Wrestling Tournament multiple times. I had asked Kimberly to stand by in the next room just in case. Mark, pinned down by Kimberly, was now shouting angrily, "You think you're alive because of me, right? Yet you keep bothering me with demands to play with the kids and help with housework. If you all would just disappear, I could live freely. Just get lost, for my sake, you idiot." "So, that's what you think. But thank you, huh?" "Actually, you just helped me a lot by self-destructing," I said calmly, thrusting my phone, which was on a call with 911, in front of Mark. I had put it on call mode earlier, so all of Mark's words had been recorded and sent directly to the police. "Please, not the cops," Mark pleaded, struggling to escape Kimberly's grip, but she held him firmly in place. "I'm sorry. I was wrong. Please, I apologize. Forgive me." Mark continued to beg, but it was too late for apologies. "That's not something you can get away with just by apologizing. What you were about to do." "Don't say such things," Mark interrupted, thrashing around. Suddenly, the sound of several footsteps and a voice saying, "We're coming in," echoed, and police officers entered through the unlocked door. In no time, Mark was taken away. Even as he was being escorted out, he pathetically clung to me, pleading for help. A subsequent investigation uncovered Mark and his mistress's sinister plan. Their objective was to eliminate me, who stood in their way, so they could be together. Even if they failed to get rid of me, they planned to fabricate a story about the loss of our child due to my carelessness, leading to divorce. Moreover, they hoped to blame me for the incident to claim compensation during the divorce proceedings. The audacity of their scheme leaves me speechless. Even now, the thought of what could have happened if I hadn't noticed anything sends chills down my spine. "Mommy, the baby is happy. She says she can always be by your side," Sarah said as soon as I picked her up. "Yes, I'm so glad. It's all thanks to you," I said, thanking my daughter from the bottom of my heart as tears of relief flowed. "Mommy, why are you crying?" "The baby is looking forward to meeting you." "I'm also very excited," Sarah said, noticing my tears. A month after Mark's arrest, our divorce was finalized. A few months later, with Matt by my side, I gave birth to a healthy baby girl. Sarah was overjoyed to meet her little sister and has since become a very